Nigeria's GDP grew by 5% in the second quarter, its fastest pace since 2014. That's after the coronavirus pandemic slammed the economy last year, with oil revenues falling and the output of other sectors being limited by lockdowns and other restrictions. The agricultural sector led gains, but as Mobin Nasir reports, violence in the country's northeast is threatening to derail the recovery.
Aisha Omar, a widowed mother of 8 from Borno State in Nigeria, has been living in this camp for internally displaced people for the past 7 years. She earns a living by selling eggs and goat's milk. But she says making ends meet is getting harder because of rising food prices.
The money isn't enough to go around anymore. I have to pay for education, healthcare and clothes.
Over the past decade, clashes between armed nomadic herders and farmers have driven around 2 million people from their homes in the main crop-growing region in northern Nigeria. And it's now worsening food insecurity across the country. Donald Amokaha owns a large rice plantation in the same area, but says he's too afraid to go there anymore, so he's now working on a much smaller farm that he's rented.
I was there for many years. But this year, I was unable to reach my farm after plowing, harrowing.
The government has been trying to raise agricultural production to cut reliance on food imports and to provide jobs. The reopening of the economy following COVID-19 induced lockdowns has brought some relief. In the second quarter of this year, GDP grew by 5%, beating expectations. It's the third consecutive quarter of growth following a 1.8% contraction last year. The National Bureau of Statistics says almost all the growth came from non-oil sectors, with agriculture, trade and transport leading gains. But officials are concerned over the sustainability of this growth, especially in the country's agricultural hub.
Or rather, what is happening in the north central region is worse. Benue State, Plateau State, Niger State, and so on. It is amazing the level of destruction and disruption of farming activities.
With output from farms being restricted, food inflation surged to more than 21% last month, and the UN estimates more than 9 million Nigerians are currently facing food insecurity. Officials say an end to the violence is necessary for boosting crop production. Without it, recent economic gains may not benefit the millions of Nigerians who've been displaced and dispossessed. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
For more on this, Agnes Gitau joins us now from London. She's managing partner at GBS Africa, an advisory services firm focused on the continent's economic and political risk. Good to have you back on the program, Agnes. Impressive figures out of Nigeria, 5% GDP growth for the second quarter. Many analysts were expecting just half of that. Can you tell us more about what was behind this strong showing?
Thank you, Oscar. Twice in a week. I guess I'm lucky. You're right. Nigerian figures are quite impressive, but this was expected, obviously higher than expected, than the market expectation, but you're coming from a very lower base. Remember, same time like this last year, the figures were about -6%. So suddenly coming from a very lower base, and you're aware that the country has eased restrictions, lifting lockdown measures, opening up borders, and obviously resumption of trade and businesses. So suddenly this contributing to these impressive figures.
When Nigeria reports its GDP figures, it breaks them down into the economy's oil and non-oil sectors. Can you tell us which industries really drove the growth in the second quarter?
Surprisingly, the trade and transport as well as telecommunication sectors contributed about 99% of this growth. You're aware Nigeria is very dependent on the oil sector. However, in the recent past, we've seen initiative under Buhari's administration attempting to diversify Nigeria's economy to focus more on the services sector. But suddenly, this quarter growth has been contributed to mainly by telecommunication, trade. And again, as I say, this is as a result of the fact that lockdown measures have been lifted, whereas at the same time last year, the whole economy was locked down, borders were closed. So certainly this has a significant impact on these sectors. Surprisingly, the agriculture sector, as your reporter was saying, only contributed about 6.4% to this growth. Remember, this is a country that is very dependent on the agriculture, highlighting the insecurity in the northern part of the country, which is key. It's actually Nigerians' food basket. So unfortunately, we haven't seen as much growth as would have been expected from this sector.
Overall, how has Nigeria fared during the pandemic? Do you think the worst is over for the country in terms of the economic effect of the health crisis?
Certainly not. It will be very hard to recover the ground that was lost by COVID-19. Certainly, the economic impact of the COVID-induced crisis has been dire to the economy. The inflation rate is double digits to about 17%. They're a long way from recovery. However, these figures are in line to IMF projections of Nigeria's economy expected to grow by 2.5% by the end of the year. Look, it is at least positive steps towards the vision of Nigeria's economy, but they're a long way away from covering what was already lost or what was induced by COVID-19.
Okay, Agnes Gitau, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much again for joining us on the program.